When people talk about the history of economics, names like Adam Smith or Karl Marx usually dominate the conversation. But nearly 1,000 years ago, another thinker had already identified the root of many financial problems we still face today. Al-Ghazali believed money was far more than a tool for buying and selling. It had the power to shape the moral character of an entire society. In his view, when money loses its true purpose, collapse doesn't begin in the economy. It begins in people. And looking at today's world, it's hard not to wonder if his warnings were centuries ahead of their time. During the 11th century, the Islamic world stood at the center of global trade, science, and prosperity. Cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo were among the most advanced economic hubs on earth. Commerce was booming, wealth was expanding, and society was changing rapidly. While most people celebrated this prosperity, Al-Ghazali saw something deeper. He wasn't focused on growing wealth itself, but on how people's relationship with money was beginning to change. He asked a simple yet profound question. What happens when a society becomes richer but loses its values along the way? To answer that question, he examined the true purpose of money. According to Al-Ghazali, money had no value on its own. It was simply a tool that allowed people to produce and trade and cooperate. The moment people treated money as the ultimate goal, rather than a means to an end, the entire system started drifting in the wrong direction. This idea led to one of his most important conclusions. Money that doesn't circulate is dead money. For Al-Ghazali, hoarding wealth wasn't just a personal decision, it was a social problem. Money locked away creates nothing. It doesn't finance businesses, support workers, or stimulate trade. An economy doesn't always suffer because resources are scarce. Sometimes resources exist, but they stop benefiting society because they no longer move. He was equally critical of speculation. Profiting from other people's hardship, creating artificial shortages, or manipulating prices wasn't a sign of intelligence in his eyes. It was moral corruption. Such profits may seem rewarding in the short term, but they eventually destroy the one thing every healthy economy depends on: trust. That doesn't mean Al-Ghazali opposed trade. Quite the opposite. He believed honest commerce was essential for a prosperous society, but cheating customers, hiding product defects, or exploiting information for personal gain damaged far more than individual transactions. It slowly eroded confidence in the market itself. And once trust disappears, the economy begins to weaken from within. He also placed enormous value on honest work. Wealth earned through effort strengthened both individuals and society, while wealth gained through manipulation weakened them both. Strong nations, he believed, are built by people who create value, not by those who profit from exploiting others. His criticism didn't stop with individuals. He also challenged governments that manipulated their currencies. In his time, some rulers reduced the gold or silver content of coins to finance public spending. Al-Ghazali saw this as a hidden form of theft. The value of money, he argued, comes not only from the metal it contains, but from the public's confidence in it. Once that confidence is broken, economic stability begins to crumble. The government's role, in his view, was not to exploit the market for short-term political gain, but to preserve fairness and stability. When leaders act dishonestly, merchants soon follow. When institutions lose credibility, society loses confidence. Eventually, people stop trusting not only those in power, but the entire financial system. Perhaps his most powerful insight was this: a society can survive poverty, but it cannot survive the loss of trust, because an economy is never built on numbers alone. Every transaction, every investment, and every contract depends on one invisible foundation: trust. Once that foundation cracks, even the strongest economies become fragile. 1,000 years have passed, yet the issues we debate today sound remarkably familiar. Wealth inequality, speculative bubbles, inflation, monetary policy, and declining trust in institutions are all modern versions of the same challenges Al-Ghazali described centuries ago. Technology has changed, markets have become global, and money now moves across continents in seconds. But human nature remains remarkably similar. Greed, fear, opportunism, and the need for trust continue to shape every economic system. Perhaps that is Al-Ghazali's greatest lesson for us. Economies rarely collapse because the numbers stop adding up. They collapse when people stop trusting one another. When money becomes disconnected from morality, when trade loses its honesty, and when justice no longer guides those in power, the system eventually begins to break. His message is just as relevant today as it was 1,000 years ago. History may never repeat itself in exactly the same way, but it has an uncanny habit of reminding us what happens when we ignore its lessons.